Welcome to Let's Talk Speak on It. I'm your host, Tamika Cozy. Thank you all so much for tuning in and joining us today. Today, we are going to be discussing fear. So, growing up, there were so many opportunities that I missed out on because I was afraid. I had a ton of fear to speak up on certain things, fear to go after what I wanted, and to go after my dreams. So it wasn't until I was in my 20s and 30s until I started going after everything that I wanted to do and didn't let fear overcome me. Thank you so much for joining us, Tearched. Can you tell our listeners a little about yourself?
Well, my name is Tearched Scott. I am a paralegal. I also am a streamer part-time. I usually stream on Wednesday through Friday from about 5 p.m. to about 8 p.m. I usually stream mostly games as well as doing just chatting videos, and I very much so enjoy doing that and being part of the community.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that information. Now, today we are discussing the word fear. You hear the word fear. What comes to your mind?
Usually it's anxiety. A lot of times what it is that you feel like you're tightening up, that you can't do what you need to do. You can't speak. You don't want to do anything. You just want to get out of the room. You're sweating really bad. So it's like a combination of everything shutting down at one point in time and you not being able to move or speak or want to do anything. It's just like a fight or flight, and mostly it's flight situation.
So what role has fear played in your life?
It's played a dramatically big role in my life, mainly because of the fact that I wasn't able to do a lot of traveling. I wasn't able to take on some responsibilities that I could have taken on because I've always been one of those people where I got intimidated by fear. And I knew I had the potential to do great things, but because I was so fearful, I didn't take that next step.
Can you tell us what are some of the things that you were fearful to go forward to? I know you mentioned traveling. How does fear affect your traveling?
Whenever I travel, initially, I feel like I'm at a point where I'm in panic mode, where I can't, grasp what's everything that's going on around me. I gotta stay on time for everything, and it feels like I can't function correctly. I get very excited. I get very nervous. I get very angry, and you can tell the way I tense up in my body that I'm not feeling very well. But when I get there, I'm okay. But the initial parts of trying to get there, it's just a high amount of anxiety.
Okay. And then oftentimes fear with a lot of people, there are so many opportunities for growth. And due to fear, many people don't go forward to try and reach their full potential in those goals. Do you see that happening with yourself also?
Yes, I do. A lot of times I have to remind myself that I can do a lot of things. And, my wife has told me oftentimes to make sure that I know that I'm a great person, to, do different affirmations about myself. I actually watch videos that actually focus in on, getting over fear and knowing that you can do this, because a lot of times success is one step away over fear.
With fear, what kind of opportunities do you feel that you have possibly missed because you have been afraid to go forward and to do it?
One big one that I think about was going to law school. I could have had a chance to go to law school at one point in time, and I didn't take the test because I was so fearful about what was going to happen. I'm not a great test taker, and that gives me anxiety. And whenever you take a test like the LSAT, which is very much so a logic-based test, if you're not paying attention to what you need to be paying attention to, or you're not keeping track of time, you can mess yourself up and not do well on the test. And that stopped me a lot of times from actually pursuing, going after law school. And, it was something that I kind of regretted, even though I did eventually get a chance to try it. Something I definitely regretted in my life.
Are there other things that you were fearful about and you went forth and did it anyway?
Yes, there were some jobs that I could have applied for, but because of the fact that I didn't feel like I had the qualifications, or I didn't have the, I didn't feel like I had the right dress, for certain things. I felt like I wasn't able to apply for those jobs because a lot of times, a lot of these jobs want you to have such a high degree of expertise, and if you don't have it, you feel like, why should I apply for this when I know that I have no choice in getting it?
Okay. And then with the jobs now that you have been able to apply for and you have gotten, what was the difference for you?
I think the difference was that I put my best foot forward. I decided that I'm not going to let fear stop me from moving forward, because a lot of times, you can do things like start stuttering, or you start forgetting your answers, or forgetting that, you are a great person, that you are very much so qualified for this job. The only difference between you and that person that's interviewing you is they don't know the person that you are.
Okay. And then can you tell us how you have been able to overcome fear? What type of things have you been able to do to help you to overcome that fear?
A lot of times what I do is I do some meditation work. I also work on listening to people on YouTube, especially motivational speakers, about how to work on anxiety, or to tell you that you can do stuff and that, you're a great person, that you can do this, and that, if other people can do it, you can do it as well. You're not no different than anybody else. Everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time, just like anybody else, and you're the same way. You can do anything you want to. You just got to make sure you're confident and ready. And you may have a little fear, but you definitely understand that fear goes along with the territory. You just have to get past it.
So how has listening to motivational speakers helped you personally?
It's helped me personally because it gives me that focus, that motivation to keep pushing, because sometimes you get tired of, wanting to push and want to give more, and, you're like, well, I could just, give a moderate or, an average work ethic to something as opposed to giving it your all. When you know that you have more to give, and, the best people who do the greatest things are people that know that they can give their best, and they have to constantly give their best to make sure that they're going to be where they want to be at.
In regards to your meditation, what do you typically do to meditate?
When I usually meditate, I try to go to a room that's very quiet, that's secluded to myself. I try to turn everything off. I turn besides maybe my computer or my actual computer or my phone, because that's oftentimes when I go on YouTube, I'll pull up a particular meditation, either tones or a speaker, and I just make sure I have them on. I shut off the lights. I might turn on light a candle, as well as sit on the floor and kind of get myself acclimated and relaxed and less stressed. That way, when I listen, I can listen intently and with my whole body when I do it, and get less stressed.
Okay. And then going back to fear also, what do you think has caused your fear?
I think my biggest thing of fear is just society as a whole. A lot of times in society, you're as a child, you're kind of taught to, you're usually told to be silent. And then when you're out and with your, you want to make friends, a lot of times, sometimes you don't know what to say or what to do. And, when you have people who are around you and you don't know what to say or do, you can, make a fool out of yourself, or you can come off as a nerd or somebody who's not cool. Everybody made fun of the nerds, but a lot of people didn't realize that nerds are encompassing a lot of the world, and they make a lot of changes to the world.
And I want to go back to something that you mentioned also. You mentioned that often kids are told to be silent, and then you also mentioned how that has affected you yourself and growing up and being able to communicate with others. So that is one important message for parents, to making sure that we are giving our kids that voice. We're listening to what they have to say, because when we take away that voice, it can affect them in their teenage years and also in their adult years too.
Definitely has.
Yeah, so if there is someone who is listening right now who is afraid, hey, I want to go to law school, I want to apply for this job, there are so many things that I want to do, but they're just afraid to go out and do it. What would you say to those people?
I would say to them, try to do it. Take it one step at a time. A lot of times people forget that it only takes one step, one day at a time to keep moving forward. Now, I'm not going to say the fear is going to completely go away, because it never does. We all have fear. But this is something that you want to do. This is something that you dreamed about. You wrote, we read books about. You wrote in your diary, your journal. You're so excited about doing these things. And you can do these things. It's just taking it one step at a time. Remembering that, there are things that you can do that can help with your anxiety or your fear. Do those things when you're doing whatever you're trying to do, because if you're able to do those things within the period of what you're trying to do, it gets a lot easier over time, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable, and you won't feel like you can't do this thing, because, there are so many great people out there that have conquered their fear, and a lot of celebrities even talk about how they have fear, of doing certain things, and they've gotten over them by either listening to some music or meditating or talking to certain people about certain things that definitely helped them. So I would say, if anything, that's the biggest thing. Take it one step at a time, finding your way to find yourself less stressed, and once you do that, you'll be in a great place.
What would you say your biggest fear has been?
I think
if you had to pick one, what would you say?
I think my biggest fear is trying new things. A lot of times that's been my biggest fear is trying new things.
Why do you say that? Why do you think that is?
I think because I've gotten to my comfort zone. I was a very much so a homebody a lot of time. I didn't like going out. I like keeping to myself because it felt like, this is my comfort zone. This is where I want to be at. I don't want to be out, and especially after everything that happened with the pandemic and people shooting and stuff like that. It's like there's a fear of going out and not being able to control anything. When you're in your own home, you can control what's going on. But when you go out into the world, you can't control everything. And in an instant, things can change. And a lot of times, people like me will get a fear, and it's like, okay, well, let me stay in my own comfort zone. I don't want to go outside that comfort zone. And unfortunately, that definitely needs to change because, you're not going to grow as a person if you don't decide to venture out from where you're at.
Do you think that being in your comfort zone has more to do with your fear or being able to control the environment?
I think it's being able to control the environment. I think that a lot of times when you're in an environment where anything can happen, people can do anything, people can say anything, and you can't control that. I can control what's happening in my home. I control who goes in, who goes out, what I watch, what I don't watch, and things of that nature. But when I go outside, I have people who are just randomly out there doing anything, and unfortunately, people sometimes don't put their best foot forward when they go out the door.
Book the other day, and so for many of you watching, for the last 2 months almost, I no longer listen to the radio in my car. I listen to books instead, so audio books. So one of the books touched on going after 100 fears. And so I know you mentioned that one of your biggest fears was to try new things. Can you list maybe a couple of those fears that you are willing and ready to go after for yourself?
I think a couple of fears probably definitely be traveling more, getting used to that because, again, I don't travel as much. I travel some, but, again, like I said, it's when I can keep my anxiety down and when I'm able to deal with that. I think one of the other things I definitely said I wanted to do was I wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle. I also said I wanted to scuba dive or, go to different places like the Florida Keys and, go scuba diving because for some reason I find, water and, sea life to be very calming. So that'd be something I'd be interested in learning how to do.
And then for your own personal development and growth, what are some of the fears that you are looking toward tackling now?
A lot of times it's a big one is right now I'm trying to be a streamer part-time, and streaming is very difficult because of the fact that you have to put your best foot forward, you have to give your best energy, and you're trying to speak to an audience that unfortunately there's a lot of people who are streaming to.
So a lot of our listeners may not know or understand what streaming is. Can you tell them?
Okay, so basically what streaming is basically you in front of a camera either on something like Twitch or YouTube or Kick. You're basically streaming either like something like just chatting, where you're just chatting with people about different subjects, or possibly playing a game. A lot of people do that as well. So a lot of times people will come on there and they find that they can find a community by streaming either gaming or just chatting about different subjects.
Okay.
I want to actually work on becoming more of a motivational speaker. That's something I wanted to work on as well. So I've been working on doing a video for that, and then once I put it out there, I think I'm trying to work on more and gradually develop into something bigger and better because I feel like I have a great voice. People enjoy what I say. People enjoy listening to me teach about different things. So I think that's a good way for me to go as well.
Okay, and why the focus on being a motivational speaker?
I think that my message always comes off as very well said. It's not demeaning to people. It makes people feel comfortable, relaxed, And again, everybody doesn't receive the message the same way. Some people can be hardcore. Where I gotta hear it heavy. You gotta paddle on. You gotta make you feel some way. And some people aren't like that. Some people need more of a guided, gentle, hand with stuff because they're used to people kind of, batting down on them or beating them down and making them feel a certain way. So every person is not the same. So you have to make sure you gear your message toward that particular group or person and go from there.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing so much about yourself to our listeners. How can our listeners contact you and follow you?
I do have a lot of links that you can contact me. I have the Conundrum. It's spelled TheConnonedrum. I have a Twitch page, which is the same name. I have a a Twitter page with the same name, which is the Conundrum, and then also have a Instagram page that has it as well. So I do have those available, as well as a TikTok that I use periodically that I do put videos up. So I have most of the platforms on there. I have a link tree, and I definitely try to put out as much content as I can.
Okay, everyone. Thank you, Tearched. Tearched thought he was about to get away. And so typically at the end of every show, I have people perform. And so there have been people to where I've had kind of freestyle if they were rappers. So Tearched also enjoys writing poetry. And so what we are going to do is put him on the spot today. And so we're going to listen to one of your spoken word poetries if you do not mind.
The name of this poem is called The Moment We Kissed. You breathe in, you breathe out. The moment you knew was coming is here. There are so many types of it. How do you know what it is? Most people fear it, tend to miss it, or don't recognize it because of bad experiences. It's a feeling where nothing else matters. And you look into that person's eyes and see happiness and nothing else. All that it was is in the distant past as you gaze at what will be the future. The person's warm body comes close to yours, and you are surrounded by a warmth that hits you from head to toe. A smile appears, and it feels like an endless, fun summer you had as a child on a bright and sunny day. The first and last kiss eternally bonds your two spirits forever. The eyes, warm body, the smile, and the kisses together open your eyes to something new and forever yours. Now you have crossed the threshold to a spiritual bond under God and discovered what real love truly is.
Thank you all for tuning in to Let's Talk Speak on It, and special thanks to Tearched for joining us today. As you go about your day, remember, fear is a process. It takes time and patience. It is essential to be kind and patient with yourself while taking small steps toward conquering your fear. Think about one fear that you are ready to face today.